It is now 7 days since we lost Captain Sheridan and Mr. Garibaldi. And in a way, I think we have also lost Ivonova. It is as though her heart has been pierced and her spirit has poured out through the wound. She blames herself. It is foolish, it is destructive, it is human. Ambassador Molari has returned to Centauri Prime to take up his role as advisor on planetary security. I suppose he is quite happy with his new position. It's what he always wanted. Power, title, responsibility. I think he is more alone than anyone else in the universe. Delenn has refused to eat for 7 days, fasting, praying, and waiting. Delenn believes. I think she is the only one who does. The shadows have paused in their pursuit of war, and everywhere there is a sense of imminent change. Whether it is a change for good or ill, no one can tell, because no one has yet answered two very important questions. Where is Mr. Garibaldi? And what happened to Captain Sheridan at Zahadum?
The Emperor is the soul of the people, the center of this republic. This whole world may perish. The Emperor goes on, we go on.
In times like this, my father used to take one large glass of vodka before bed. To keep the wolf away, he said. And then he would take 3 very small drinks of vodka, just in case she had cubs while she was waiting outside. Doesn't work.
Their leader has fallen.
Captain Sheridan
Is dead. Their enemies advance.
Great Maker, no.
Now a desperate gamble.
Hurry.
Could be their last.
Take us in.
On the season premiere of Babylon 5.
You have transmissions holding.
Patch incoming signal. Full audio and video decode.
Purple files accessed.
What you are about to see has never been shown to anyone outside the Grey Council.
And so it begins.
Hello, everyone out there in podcast land. Welcome to Grey 17, a Babylon 5 podcast, a part of the Front Row Network and NPR Illinois Community Voices. We're a group of newbies watching Babylon 5 for the very first time, and a group of first ones who have been watching Babylon 5 far too many times. And we are here today to start the journey that is Season 4 with Hour of the Wolf. I'm Scott, and with me is
Emily.
Blake,
Dustin,
Nicole,
and Kevin.
Jessi and Mike are both old and have gotten sick, but they will return once they, find out what the hell's wrong with them. So we're going to dive into Season 4. But before we do that, just a couple reminders that we really do need you to like, subscribe, and follow, whether you're listening to us on Apple, Spotify, Audible, or you're watching us on YouTube. Click all of the buttons. They really do help us. We are getting very close to another milestone on both Spotify and on YouTube for subscriptions. So please make sure you follow and subscribe. I know about only half of you have. So if you're listening to us week to week, just hit that little button for us. It definitely helps us. Along with that, leaving us reviews on Apple absolutely does help us, and we did get another one. This one comes all the way from the United Kingdom, and it is from Sectux, and it is, I did not hate it. In fact, I love the show. Bringing together people who know the whole show together with fresh-eyed viewers seemed like a bad idea. But this lot pulls this off seamlessly. Listening to people with the wonder of what will happen next helps remind me of that feeling for my first watch through as well. The varied opinions and ideas that keep coming from the cast, as well as the behind-the-scenes info that is thrown in there from the old ones. We're the old ones, guys. Means that it's always entertaining. I can't wait to hear the reactions to more of this season, the next, and whatever else is lined up. Keep it up. Thanks, Sectux. We appreciate it. And if you want to leave a review, go over to Apple, or we also can take reviews on Audible, so you can do that. And then if you're listening on Spotify, there is that tell us about the show Q&A on your Spotify app. You can type in a review there as well, too. So let us know, and then if it's not too negative, we'll read it here on the show as well. And finally, if you can go all the way, you can join us on Patreon, which is linked down below. All Patreon members, regardless of your pledge, get access to our Discord, which includes both a general discussion area and a Beyond the Rim spoiler section that the newbies aren't allowed to see. So if you want to chat with us, you can also chat with us on Twitter and Facebook. But if you want to help us out in growing the show, you can join us over at Discord through our Patreon. And a special thank you to our Grey Council members. Those are our producers who have given the highest pledge, and they are listed down below as well. So guys, we have just finished season 3, and a special thanks to the thousands of people who either watched or listened to our season 3 recap already. We really do appreciate that. And we're excited now to move into the second to last season. We are very much over the hump as we go through the last 44 episodes of Babylon 5, plus a few movies sprinkled in there. But we're definitely coming close to the end of this story. I think you could easily say that this is Act 3 of the 3-act play. And this season, I always tell you guys this. I tell you this is the season title because you're not even going to know what the hell it means anyway. This season's title is No Surrender, No Retreat. So let's begin talking about No Surrender, No Retreat with the Hour of the Wolf. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, we're going to go to our newbies first and get their first impressions. And then we will get to our first ones and get their first impressions, and we'll talk about the show. But before we do that, Nicole, I believe you have a synopsis for the Hour of the Wolf.
Yes. Sheridan's disappearance begins to unravel the alliance. Londo discovers that Emperor Cartagia has struck a disturbing deal. Jakar decides to search for Garibaldi. Ivonova, Delenn, and Lita head towards Zahadum to search for Sheridan.
Thanks, Lurker's Guide. We appreciate it. See, I cited them. We're no longer plagiarizing.
Yes.
So let's get into our first impressions. Emily, first impressions on the Hour of the Wolf. By the way, I was told to start off the show by letting everyone know that Emily is hangry and grouchy. Emily, go ahead.
Yes, it's very true. I am hangry and a little on edge. Anyway, I thought the episode was a really good way to start the season. I liked it.
You heard it here, folks. She didn't hate it.
Shocked. He almost fell out of his chair.
You know, season 3 was rough for you, my friend. So
season 3 was really, really rough for me. But so far, season 4 has been good. And one thing I noticed is it didn't really have Sheridan in it. That might be my issue.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens.
You're now getting disapproving looks from Kevin.
I know. I get disapproving looks all the time. I'm used to it. I have a kid. I disappoint somebody on a daily basis.
You're American. You disappoint a lot of people on a daily basis. Let's be honest here.
By existing. I know.
Hi, UK listeners. How are you? Justin, first impressions.
I agree with Emily. It was a good episode to start the season on. Both the title and Jakar's opening kind of dialogue or monologue, I guess I should say, kind of sets the tone really well for the episode. I'm glad to see Patricia Tallman gets opening creds. That's kind of cool to see her on there. Some questions were answered. You know, Morden's still alive, looking like a insane leper patient. Sheridan's alive. Nukash is a shady asshole. And I didn't think that Londo was going to be the major source of sanity and responsible thinking, but here we are. So, yeah, it was a good episode overall.
I love the fact that deciding to kill a planetary leader is the, normal thinking and then the calmness that is Londo. Let's kill the Emperor.
Yeah, I mean, basically they've got the Centauri version of Caligula on the throne, and Londo Londo's got to go to work now.
Nicole, first impressions.
Right off the bat, I noticed obviously the new credits. Lita was added to the credits. The music was different. I liked how the voiceover was everybody taking turns. That was really cool. Those are just little things I noticed. But yeah, I really liked the episode. There was a lot going on. I felt like it was really jam-packed. Usually there's like an A plot and a B plot, but I felt like there was more. Like there was so many irons in the fire in this episode that almost there was like a C plot. Like there was multiple things happening. So, but it didn't seem clunky or crowded, or it all flowed together really well, I thought. Yeah, just first reactions, Morden looked awful and he was creepy. I wish he was dead, but unfortunately he's not. Cartagia is fucking insane. Homeboy is off his rocker. Even Morden was a little off his rocker. He was a little bit crazier than usual, I thought.
Well, you get a nuke dropped on your head and see how you act.
Yeah, I mean, he was like off his rocker. But yeah, like Justin said, Londo being the one who's thinking straight and like wanting to do something good, like that was shocking. Also, I thought it was kind of cool that Lita was like, let's go try to find Sheridan. Like that was unexpected, especially after Nukash the dick was like telling her don't interfere and it's irrelevant and all that stuff. Like she's like, nah, man, we're going to go find him or try to find him. So I thought that was really neat. That whole scene was really cool. Overall, I thought it was great. Oh, and at the very end, the music was also different, I noticed.
So before we get to the first one's first impressions, because two of you already brought up the opening credits, I'd love to hear from the three of you. And Nicole, you've kind of already started a little bit, but what do you think about these opening credits? What do you like? What do you dislike? Justin, you always like to point out that season 3 looked like the start of an NFL game, pointing out everyone's player and where they're from. So what do you guys think about these opening credits? And compared to seasons 1, 2, and 3, where do you think the season 4's opening credits fall for you so far?
I mean, I guess for me, I like it. I think that I like the fact that they kind of change it up every season. And I kind of had my own personal theory on what I thought the opening credits were going to be like. And they were wrong, because I kind of noticed that the person who kind of closes out one season does kind of like the opening credits monologue for like the next season. And I thought it was maybe going to be Jakar, but I'm kind of glad that they let kind of everybody kind of have a voice and a part in it. The music to me sounds a little bit more upbeat. Like season 3's music for the opening credits was very, I guess, solemn and kind of dark, whereas this is kind of more upbeat, but still very kind of martial type music. So overall, to quote one of our favorite phrases, I don't hate it. I don't see anything wrong with it.
Yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was cool how they had like kind of like a still and like an action like shot, like it wasn't just them with their name. Like the NFL, that's a great way to describe season 3. But yeah, I also thought the music was a little bit more upbeat, serious, but more upbeat. And it just felt almost more exciting, if that makes sense. Like it gave you a sense of excitement, And I also thought that like just the way everything looked, it was really smooth. Like, not like CGI wise, but like the graphics and stuff, it was really bright and really crisp and really smooth looking. So I think this is probably the best one yet.
Emily?
I agree. I like the intro to this a lot better. I thought it was a lot more interesting. It seems like the budget for this season got better just based on the first episode. The set design seemed better. But yeah, I much prefer this intro to the previous seasons.
Ironically, the most of the scenes from this opening credits is actually from season 3.
Right.
So but to your point, Emily, yeah, you're going to see in this season that they start to branch out more. I mean, Londo and Veer are now no longer on the station, and other things are going to happen as well too. Mm-hmm. So but a lot of folks online have warned us not to have you all watch the opening credits for a while. I don't think this one is as a spoilery, because obviously you know that Sheridan's still around by the end of this episode. But JMS has said over the years that he sees this as basically like the book cover. The little side panel tells you what's going to happen. So it's more foreshadowing and just giving you a lay of the land more so than giving you any spoilers. So last season, though, when you saw a Star Fury blow up another Star Fury, that one, a little bit more. But since we're already past that part, it's good to hear you guys are enjoying these. I would say that my favorite season intro is season 5. Mainly for the music, but we'll get there when we get there. Kevin, Blake, what do you guys feel about the intros? Then we'll get into your first impressions.
Yeah, I guess I see where season 3, it's like the beginning of the NFL game. I can kind of see that all. I like those, but this one's cool too because it gives everyone a role and they look real nice. But yeah, season 5, that music really sticks with you. So we'll have to talk about that when we get there, but it'll be a while.
Spoilers, you've heard it on our podcast for like 2 years now. So, Blake?
Yeah, I'd agree. Season 5 is actually my favorite in terms of the music and the opening sequence, but I like 3. I like 2 better, honestly. I like season 2's setup better than I did 3. But 4 is not bad. I mean, it does have a little bit more action to it. You see the characters doing something. Several of them doing the jump dives in the season 4 opener. You've got a few different people doing diving routines through there. So
hey, we paid for those stunts. We're going to use them.
Waste no stump shot.
There you go. Okay, Kevin, what are your first impressions on Hour of the Wolf?
I like this episode. I really like the stuff on Centauri Prime. I mean, this is one of those where you see that Londo's actions on getting this guy on the throne are coming back to haunt him, and he's deciding that he's going to have to clean up his own mess and he's going to need help to do it. So that interests me. The Caligula reference, that was pretty intentional by JMS. I mean, he even made the names somewhat in the same neighborhood for that reason. I like that Patricia Tallman is a main cast member now, and I feel like this is my favorite cast season, so I'm looking forward to that. But I have not seen this whole season in several years, so probably at least 5, if not more. So I'm struggling to remember what happens, and I can't decide if I'm going to watch it all the way through or just go week to week and be a little surprised. Haven't decided yet.
And Blake.
I also like this episode, and you kind of already mentioned one of the reasons why is you start to get this bigger feel with this episode. I mean, before we've had episodes that take place on B5, maybe they venture off to another location and the focus is there for a little while, but you're starting to get this sense of this larger universe with things at play because you've got stuff going on at Zahadum. You've got stuff taking place on Centauri Prime where you've got main characters in both of these places. You've got Babylon 5. So things are branching out and there's things going on elsewhere within the episode. So the scope and scale is getting bigger, which is something I'm enjoying with this. And just overall where it's starting the story with season 4 and carrying on with, you see the impacts of what happened at the end of 3. You see the impact it's having on Ivonova, and that voiceover at the beginning with, we very well lost Ivonova too. And you just sort of see this dazed out of it Ivonova walking through the station.
Yeah, it's a pretty tragic, thing to watch how beaten she is. And it's been suggested by some, that it has to do with, the burden of command. And I don't buy that at all. I think it has everything to do with two of her close, coworker friends are missing and possibly presumed dead, or at least one of them. She's pretty sad about that, and I don't think it has to do with command, although that probably doesn't help.
Yeah, I mean, not only close friends. You can argue maybe she's close to Franklin, but these are the two that she is friends with. I mean, she has breakfast with Garibaldi and Sheridan. We've seen that. Just like she had breakfast with Garibaldi and Sinclair. These are her two people that she relies on. And in literally one day, she has lost them both. Mm-hmm. So I completely agree.
Yeah. And she has no family left. So she's used to losing people, and she may just be to the point where she just can't deal with losing more people.
Mm-hmm. For me, this is probably my favorite season. A lot of people will say season 3. I know, Kevin, you've said season 3 is your favorite season. I'm looking forward to watching this week to week, as I have been for the whole show so far with you all, to see where this season kind of boils out for me now. But this is usually the season I go to and I watch full on. Even if I'm not going to watch a full rewatch of B5, I watch season 4. I do appreciate, as you guys have already mentioned, that we're starting to see a larger scope. One of the reasons why we were stuck on a station for the first couple of years, it was budgetary. Emily, to your point, this is a show that was made on the cheap, and so if you only use 3 or 4 sets and maybe add 1 set a year, you get to your stories have to resemble that. Whereas, I think as we see here, with just being on Zahadum, Centauri Prime, that we're already seeing that branch out. And I also like that JMS is leaning heavily in this first episode on the ensemble cast. And Emily, you and I had a sidebar conversation about how you kind of feel that these cast members are kind of disparate. I'm interested to see how you will take season 4 as this a kind of ensemble nature of the show goes forward. Especially, I mean, we talked about the Jakar opening, but even Ivonova gets a log here. So we're starting to get the point of view of our characters throughout this story as well, too, which I don't feel this is a spoiler. That's going to continue in season 4. You're going to continue to see this kind of point of view characters as we move through this story. Okay, let's go ahead and dive in to the conversation. And Nicole, you've got your hand up. So what do you got?
I just wanted to add something to the Ivonova conversation. It was just so devastating to see how distraught she was, because I feel like, Kevin, I think it was you who said she has no family left. And, you know, yes, they're her coworkers, but, you know, you kind of choose your family, you know, and I feel like that's her family. That's her people. And, you know, Scott, you hit the nail on the head, losing 2 people in the same day, potentially. And then the hour of the wolf speech that her dad told her. And it was just so, and like the vodka is not helping. And it was just so heartbreaking to see her in such a bad state. And I don't think it was, because she has to lead. I think it's because she's devastated that she doesn't know if her friends are here or not. And at the end, when she was like, I have to let him go, it was just like, a jab in the heart, because it's like, we know that he's alive, but she doesn't. And it was just so hard to watch. And it just is another testament to her acting too. Cause like, if you didn't feel something during those scenes, then you may or may not have a soul, because I was like practically tearing up, just the way that she portrayed her devastation. It was just so gut-wrenching.
I would be remiss, because we've talked about both Jeff Conway's and Jerry Doyle's addictions. Claudia Christian was very much an alcoholic as well. She's, I think, as we've discussed with her on her interview, she's very much in recovery on that now. But if you read her book, her go-to was everything: liquor, beer, wine. She spent thousands and thousands of dollars on a collection of wine that she just like drank through on a bad week. So when you watch her downing vodka in the middle of the night, this whole cast, at least especially these 3, it's rough to watch them act this out, because this was very much a part of their personal lives in real life, not so much just acting. Justin.
Yeah, I mean, I can't echo what Nicole said enough. I mean, Claudia did such a fantastic job in this episode, because you can even see it during, like somebody had mentioned, I think it was Blake mentioned, that during Jakar's kind of monologue, you just see her kind of walking through the station, and you can tell she was a shell. And just every time that she was kind of had anything to do with her, you can just see the difficulty in her face, because not only did she lose 2 very close friends, or quote unquote, you know, chosen family members, but now everything's dumped on her. She's now has to run the station in Sheridan's absence. And she maybe, I don't think she wasn't ready for it, because I think she is ready for command, but it's not the way she wanted it to all happen. So she's struggling with that. And I think probably the scene that kind of strikes out more than anything else about just how alone that she feels right now is the scene with Veer, where she goes and sees Veer, and he tells her that, hey, this is what we know. And she just turns around, and as he's talking, trying to cheer her up, you could just visibly see her just breaking down. And I thought that was extremely powerful and extremely moving. And like I said, Claudia, honestly, it probably has to be my favorite Ivonova episode of the series so far.
Emily.
Well, I'm about to derail the conversation, so sorry about that, because it's going to go back to something we talked about in the live in season 3, when Justin was asking if we thought Garibaldi was like taken by the shadows. And during the intro, I was like, I know why he's thinking that. And the rest of us were like, no, Garibaldi left voluntarily. The scene where there's a shadow ship surrounding the fighter. So I think our understanding was he left B5 voluntarily in the fighter to go find Sheridan, and then a shadow ship captured his ship. So I'm thinking, is that what you were thinking of, Justin?
Before you answer that, Justin, I want to throw out there, because I give Justin a lot of shit, but Justin was the only one holding the line on this whole Garibaldi was taken, because Nicole, Jessi, and Emily were like, oh no.
Well,
Garibaldi went on his own recourse. He decided to go on his own. So if Emily's starting to get shaky,
I think it was like we were talking past each other, where we were talking about him actually leaving the station voluntarily versus having left the station then being captured in his fighter.
sure, if you want to make that difference, but I'm pretty sure you all were very adamant that he left on his own.
I still don't think he was taken.
Okay, you still think he left on his own. Okay. We're going to find out.
So what I hear is Emily just said I was right.
Well, I'm not going to put words in her mouth, but it seems like she may be equivocating a little bit.
She may be coming a little bit. You know what? Come to the dark side. We have cookies. It's great.
And I'm not saying which way it's going to go. I'm just saying it was 3-1.
My mode of thinking with that whole thing was, and rewatching it in the recap at the beginning of this particular episode just solidifies it to me. He went out to fight. He went out prepared to fight the shadows. Then as they were leaving, you see the shadow cross over and he just goes, what the, and it cuts. And then you see his Star Fury inside a spider ship. I think he was taken. So I still 100% think he's not going on any kind of crusade to save Sheridan. He was out there to fight, and he was snatched up for some reason and taken back as a prisoner.
Okay.
I'll die on that hill until we find out the truth, and then I'll deny that I was ever wrong in the first place.
Go for it, Blake.
So, Justin, here's a question for you.
Yeah.
Since you think he was taken.
Yeah.
What is your prediction for why you think Mr. Garibaldi was taken?
I don't have any idea, to be honest. If I
anal
had to
probe,
come up, maybe you know what, the big anal probe that turns into the satellite dish, like in South Park.
It took us one episode of season 4 to bring up anal.
We've already seen Grays twice in this show.
Right.
Anal probing must happen.
We know what they're into. There's no reason to dance around it. If I had to come up with something off the top of my head, maybe he was taken by the shadows, because like the weird telepathic shadow in this episode knows their names and everything about them. So maybe they know that Garibaldi's part of the inner circle. Maybe they captured him to get information, or maybe they're going to try and make him a sleeper agent. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that yet, Blake.
Okay.
Maybe it has something to do with what happened when they went to Zahadum and they were trying to draw Ivonova and Delennon. Maybe it has something to do with that. If he was taken, they probably have a reason maybe that has to do with that, is kind of what I was thinking. But I still don't think he was taken. I'm going to die on that hill.
Somebody's dying.
We should talk about G'Kar a little bit, because he was in Garibaldi's room and wearing his hat. And by the way, the whole Zach Allen telling him about the Daffy Duck poster, that was hilarious. That he was like an Egyptian god or whatever.
The Egyptian god. Yep.
God of
Egyptian
frustration.
Yeah, I was cracking up at that. But I thought that was kind of a cool scene because, G'Kar, he was very much adamant about how Garibaldi gave him a second chance and they became really good friends. So he wants to return the favor and try to find Mr. Garibaldi. And he went to his room to remember his soul that will help him find him, So at first I was like, who the fuck is in his room? And then when it was G'Kar, I was like, oh, okay, so it's not a bad person, which is good. But I just really thought that was such a cool scene. And one thing that G'Kar said in that scene that I really liked was that our thoughts make up the universe, our thoughts form the universe or whatever. I loved that line. And because Zach Allen was like, oh, I don't have any thoughts or whatever. And he's like, our thoughts make up the universe, and I just thought that was a really cool line. And I thought that was pretty significant. I don't know how yet, but I have a feeling that that's going to be significant somehow. I just thought it was really neat that he's kind of going to search for him and he's determined to try to find him. I just really liked that whole scene and the dialogue and him wearing his hat, and it was really good.
Since Jessie's not here to talk about the attractiveness that is Andreas Katsoulis in the G'Kar outfit, because she really likes his bare chest, I think G'Kar wears a fedora very nice.
He looked great in it.
I really wish the action figure would have came with a fedora accessory, because He wears it nice.
For listeners out there who are rather crafty, Scott would like a fedora for his doll.
Just make a 3D print so I can put it on his head. I'll be fine. What I like about this interaction between G'Kar and Garibaldi is it's cyclical. Garibaldi is here because Sinclair gave him a second chance. G'Kar is here because Garibaldi gave him a second chance. Now G'Kar is going to repay that favor as well, too. I love how that cycle continues to move forward on this.
Well, and you can just tell that between them, those two characters, like what started as just mere toleration because Garibaldi had a close relationship with Londo early on in the series. And then just to see them to not only come to an understanding, but evolve that into a very deep friendship over time, where they rely on each other very closely to the point to where Garibaldi was actually trying to study G'Kar's religion in order to try to come up with something that can help in the war against the shadows. And he was even trying to learn how to speak Narn or read Narn and stuff like that. So it's something that they, a very deep friendship has developed between the two. And this is right now, maybe G'Kar feels like because even like he says during his monologue, where, everything's kind of settled down, everyone is kind of feels like there's been a change, but nobody knows if it's good or bad. And there's kind of a lull in everything right now. Maybe just G'Kar is going to take this time. Then he's like, you know what? If I don't have anything else to do right now, I'm going to go find my best friend. And that's his motivation for finding Garibaldi, because he feels like he owes, if not a life debt, but a pretty serious debt to him. So it's something that's really refreshing to see, and I can't wait to see where it goes.
Now, if we can just get Garibaldi to stop thumping the Book of Jaquan, we'll be fine. Kevin, what do you got?
I really like the G'Kar voiceover for this episode to narrate. It was probably my favorite part of the episode. I thought it brought it together really well. Obviously, Katsoulis really does a wonderful job with that. And, quite a bit of, what he says, throughout the episode is really profound. And you really see in this episode how good a soul, G'Kar has become. And I know we've talked about it a lot in season 3, but I think you see such a good glimpse of it here, because he feels a real loyalty to Garibaldi, and he's almost a little miffed that no one seems to be worried about Garibaldi so much as Sheridan. And, perhaps I don't think that's true. I think he's the focus because he's the leader. But I think if you asked Ivonova or anyone on the security staff, they would say, that they were particularly worried about Garibaldi. But, I'm trying to take in what Emily and Scott have said at different times about Sheridan. I really like the Sheridan character. I really like Boxleitner. I'm not going to be shy about that. But I also really like this episode because of how much Claudia got to do in it. And she doesn't usually get a lot to do. And perhaps that has to do with the fact that Boxleitner is in this for about 2 seconds. But that's more of a criticism of JMS than it is anything else, I suppose.
Now we've talked about, Nicole, back again.
Oh, I was going to talk about Centauri Prime.
Okay, hold on.
So yeah,
let me do my transition I was going to do 15 minutes ago before you raised your damn finger. Okay, now we've done the discussion of what's going on in Babylon 5. Let's take a little side quest over to Centauri Prime. Nicole, you want to talk about the good Londo?
First of all, the set there was pretty cool. I thought it was really neat. It kind of reminded me of almost like a Japanese garden or something, but it was really pretty. So that was kind of cool. And it was a little bit more bright than the last time we saw Centauri Prime. So that was kind of neat. But yeah, so all the shit that went down there was fucking wild. Okay, first of all, Cartagia is insane. When he tells Londo that he was requested, I was not expecting it to be Morden that requested him. And then when you see Morden, I think Justin said he looked like a leper. He looked wrecked, toe up. So he was also a little off his rocker, as I said earlier, picking his skin off. That was so nasty, by the way. Just flecks of skin everywhere. Blech, disgusting. But yeah.
Come on. You peel your sunburn. You know you do.
I don't get sunburn because I tried to avoid it at all costs. But
I was just glad he wasn't eating it like gold member.
Yes, that's what I thought of. But
that's nasty.
But yeah, like that whole scene with him was so creepy and weird. And he's telling Londo, "You're gonna do what I say," and Londo's like, "No, I refuse." He's like, "Oh no, you're gonna do it." So then, Londo is kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place because Cartagia promised them this thing, and now Londo has to be their basic, their representative to the court or liaison or whatever he asked him to do. So Londo doesn't want to. And then we finally saw that scene that was like a premonition of him standing there looking at the sky with all the shadows going over. I was like, oh, snap, we finally see it happening, So that was kind of wild. But the whole all the shit that went down there was insane. Like Cartagia talking to the heads, like, Morden telling him he's your responsibility. You and Rifa are the ones that put him here. So now you have to deal with it. And you're going to be our liaison. Like, I think Londo realized the error of his ways. And that's why, like Justin said earlier, he kind of became the voice of reason in the episode. And yeah, it sounds weird to say, oh, they're going to kill the Emperor and that's the voice of reason. But that motherfucker needs to go. I mean, he is off the rocker and then some, So I think that that whole storyline was just so almost chaotic in a way. Like it was just like, I just kept saying to myself, what the fuck, over and over again. But it was also really good too. And then that one guy, who was the guy that was like assisting Londo and like directing him to his room or whatever.
Like a chief of staff.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if he had a name or not, but like when he was telling Londo, it's best to be quiet, just don't say anything out loud. Like he was trying to help Londo and warn him, which he probably should listen to those warnings because clearly, as you can see, all the heads are surrounding his desk. So it was crazy. There's probably more I could say, but I will stop talking and let somebody else say something.
We've seen that official before. He's just listed in the credits as minister, but he's played by Damian London. We've seen him a few times before, and he does a nice job as the fairly quiet, unassuming, dutiful minister. But he's seen some shit. He makes that pretty clear in this episode. And I'm here for all of this because Londo deserves all of it for being such a jagbag for this whole series, pretty much.
Justin.
Londo's he's got to sleep in the bed he's made, man. But you can finally see him, start to kind of realize all the shit that he's done. But the minister, to me, the entire time I was watching this episode, reminds me of the herald from History of the World Part 1 during the Roman period. All hail the Emperor of Rome. Just how he was like flamboyant and everything was just great. And, oh, that's fine. I took the liberty of cleaning your jacket, so don't worry, and just the way he acted just completely reminded me of that character from one of my favorite Mel Brooks movies. Then for him to kind of towards the end be like, yeah, there's a lot of fucked up shit going on. Everybody knows it, but everybody's too scared to do anything about it because they don't want to end up another head on his desk. Yeah, that guy is, as soon as I saw the Emperor, I was just, this guy's I even wrote down my notes. This guy's a giant tool. Like I can't wait to see how he meets his end, because the only thing I can think is now that he's brought Veer into this and now they're going to try and take him down. This has got to be the first steps on how Londo ends up becoming Emperor down the line. So now I can't wait to see how this plays out.
This episode definitely could have been improved by having a stand-up philosopher in it. I'll say that for sure.
One of the things I like about this too is when Londo calls Veer back. You guys are talking about how Londo is the only one making sense here. Only a few weeks ago in the timeline, Londo sent Veer off to do what he had to do with Rock cried out no hiding place and Veer was starting to like, you sent me and you didn't really know if I was going to make it, to where now Veer is excited and happy. He's like, if I was going to say no, you wouldn't have called me. So I think Veer is starting to realize too that, okay, even though this is getting pretty dark, at least Londo is pointing in some direction that makes sense. So I love that little dynamic between Veer and Londo, kind of building itself back up from the low point that they were at the end of season 3. Blake.
Well, just to comment a little bit too. So the title of this episode being Hour of the Wolf, which JMS described as kind of that time around 3 a.m. where shit's bothering you and you just can't sleep. You watch the episode, you've got Ivonova sitting up in the middle of the night on the couch, even when her alarm goes off, worrying about everything that's going on. You've got Cartasia going in and talking at his little room and desk full of heads. You've got Londo calling Veer in what was the middle of the night. So kind of that just thread of all of the pieces in this episode of how much was going on with these characters that were up in the middle of the night worrying about all of this, as it then ties in with the title of the episode.
This reminds me of How I Met Your Mother. Nothing good ever happens after 2 a.m. The middle of the night can really be a terrible time, especially when everything seems like it's going bad, and they really captured that very well in this episode.
If you follow
a TV show to remind you of that, hell, we all went to college together. I thought we would have learned that from that.
If you follow JMS, there's a reason why he posts a Twitter about 1 to 4 in the morning more than any other time. The dude is very much an insomniac and does all his work in the middle of the night. And as somebody who probably doesn't usually go to sleep until about 3 or 4 in the morning, Hour of the Wolf is an interesting time. It's interesting. Justin, what do you got?
Well, and it all makes sense about, if you know anything about kind of the mythology behind that, it's all about your ghosts coming back to haunt you. And we see a lot of this throughout the episode of where, it's, people are chasing the ghosts of Sheridan and Garibaldi. Londo's dealing with, the ghosts of his actions, the ghost of Morden sitting there right in front of him, horribly scarred. And it's also the time of night where, demons are running around and stuff like that. And we're seeing a lot of little plans being unhatched and stuff like that. So again, I thought it was a perfectly fitting theme for the entire episode.
What else should I got for Londo, the Good Emperor, Veer? Anything else?
I really wish that Ed Wasser was still acting, because I really like his acting. I thought that scene with Londo, it made him look crazy, and I thought it was very well acted. I especially liked him singing Ashes, Ashes, We All Fall Down. I mean, it was just completely deranged.
Seen one Sheridan, you've seen them all. And I want to throw out there, too, the folks who have been involved in this meat puppet versus free will conversation we've been having since season 1. And I'll just say the one line that Morden said in this episode: the flesh does what the flesh is told. I'll leave it at that. Emily.
I think this episode was particularly interesting because we have criticized Londo, rightfully so, for killing millions, billions of people. And in this episode, we're like, he's plotting to murder someone, and that's a good idea. And it feels weird, but it's like he's doing it to try to save people. But it's a really awkward feeling where you're like, I had to criticize him for killing billions of people. And now I gotta almost feel supportive of him murdering the specific one. And I don't really like it. I don't like feeling like his murdering someone is a good thing. You know what I mean?
Hey, if you were given a gun and sent back to 1939, would you not blast the shit out of Hitler?
Yes, you do. Because you save the people.
I'm just saying.
But when generally speaking, murder is wrong. And then you're like, but in this instance, we got to do what we got to do. Because I don't use the term crazy lightly, because I know it's very dismissive to people who have mental health issues. This dude is straight up unhinged. I'm not sure that's an actual mental health issue, unless you consider, I don't know, having no soul being one.
I used to teach sociology for a hot minute, and I always love getting into situational ethics. Murder's wrong until it's not. Mm-hmm. And then the kids' heads explode. Nicole.
I had two things I kind of wanted to say. One about the thing with Cartagia. saying that Londo's like, what about all the people? Our people are going to die. They're just going to be the human shield or the shields for them. And he's like, so what's a bunch of people? And like, he was just acting so cavalier and like, oh, whatever, who cares if they all die? No big deal. And it's ironic because Emily was saying how before Londo had killed so many people, but he at least felt a little guilt at first, the first time when they did it, but this guy is just talking about killing people like he's changing his underwear. Like it was just, who cares? I'll become a god. And that's all that matters because we're here because of me and I'm the most important. And like, what a narcissistic, like, point of view, selfish, just like you said, Emily, unhinged. Like he wants to become a god. And he's like, doesn't give a fuck who he has to kill in order to get there, which was absolutely wild. That whole like scene about how people are just collateral and he just, what's most important is he gets what he wants and who cares about anybody else. It was just like, dang, that's like real messed up. So I just thought it was ironic that like you had said, Londo killed all those people and in order to save more, he's going to have to kill this guy. But like this guy, at least Londo felt a little something at first,
Yeah.
But then another thing I thought was really cool about this whole scene and the time on Centauri was when Veer came and Londo was basically like, you're the closest thing to a friend I have and I need a friend right now and I need help. And Veer was like, would you have brought me here if you doubted my answer? And like, no matter how much Veer disagrees with Londo and his acts and his things that he does, he's still so loyal to him. And it just shows you what a stand-up guy Veer is, and plotting to kill the Emperor isn't stand-up, but like also Veer is like ride or die no matter what.
You are all so cute and naive with it. It's bad to kill the guy who has severed heads on his desk.
Oh, no, homeboy can go. But I'm just saying, like,
it just feels weird.
I think this is the best decision Londo has made in the 3 years we've been watching him.
It absolutely is.
Yeah, I'm a very liberal guy. But when it comes to people who need to go, some people
need to go.
Yeah.
The Nicole to the Veer line. That line can be taken straight the way you just said it and put into a rom-com and it would work fine.
Yes.
If you thought I was going to say anything else, would you have asked me to come?
Exactly. Oh, that's so. Oh no,
well, that just got creepy. So thanks for that.
Oh, if you haven't been shipping Stephen First and Peter Jurassic at this point, you should. You really should, Justin.
Yeah, he makes a very clear impression. He seems to think for some reason that, the people will gladly sacrifice himself so he can get his rocks off trying to become some kind of godlike figure. And I think, honestly, I don't want to completely let Londo off the hook yet, because I think why Londo may be completely horrified at the Emperor's at Cartagia's kind of comments is because this is Centauri's we're talking about.
Yep.
Yes, he may have had a moment of guilt, or he may have had a moment of displeasure about how the whole destruction of Narn went down. But at the end of the day, I don't think he lost a whole ton of sleep about hundreds of thousands or millions of Narns being killed. This is Centauri's. That is a much bigger problem than, so he's definitely going to have a serious major objection about that. Would he make the same decision to save 5 million humans or 5 million Narns? I don't think so.
Well, and I mean, Morden calls him out for it. The reason why we have Cartagia is because of you and Rifa. Mm-hmm. So I'm not letting Londo off the hook. I'm just saying this is his best decision he's made in a long time.
No, agree. 100% agree. Like you said, when you got to go, you got to go.
Kevin.
One of the things, and this isn't exactly the same thing, but it's along the same line. When you watch, certain shows, MacGyver comes to mind, and you're like, would you just blast the guy, please? Like he's come back 5 times and he's tried to kill you all these times. Like, would you just do it, please?
That may be the first time in human history where somebody has uttered the phrase MacGyver comes to mind.
Well, that was one of my favorite shows growing up. in the 80s. I loved that show. But, and I could go into a whole thing about SG1 if you want me to, and I'm sure you don't, so I won't. But that was one of the things that Rick Anderson, when he did SG1, he's like, look, I want to actually use a gun once in a while, as long as we have an anti-gun type of overarching, which they did. But I think he was really kind of tired of that whole like, oh no, I can't ever do that. And they had to keep coming up with interesting ways of getting rid of people that had nothing to do with him pushing them.
So, newbies, there was a whole little thing about Londo's coat. Did anyone catch why we had to do a whole little thing about Londo's coat and the dry cleaning? Anyone?
Nope.
Was it because of the fact that when they filmed that scene for the prophecy, he was wearing a purple coat, so they had to make sure he was wearing a purple coat for that scene as well?
We see a flash forward of Londo looking up and seeing the exact same scene of the shadows overhead, but he's wearing his purple jacket.
And he wasn't wearing black yet, was he?
Nope. And JMS said, I've learned my lesson after War Without End. I'm going to make sure that everything lines up, because he got so much heat about, well, Zathras was supposed to just appear in a conference room. What happened? He's like, I learned my lesson. The black coat was out to the dry cleaners. He's going to put the purple one back on.
I was just thinking of like a Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat reference. That's what I was thinking of.
Yep, but now Londo had to get the purple coat back on to make that prophecy come true. So we've seen another prophecy now. Okay, let's dive into Zahadum. And a couple of things we can talk about here. We obviously have Sheridan showing up at the very end, but we also have the White Star. I guess the White Star A, because the White Star original is now, sprinkled like fairy dust over Zahadum. So let's start with Blake. What do you got?
Jumping in with the Zahadum pieces, and you're right, there's a lot. There's the White Star, there's that whole bit on there with them encountering that eye type thing that's in space that we've seen before, because Ivonova encountered that when she was in the Great Machine. But we have Sheridan at the very end, and he meets this other alien, Lorien, that's there. And the very first question they ask is, who are you? Which is the Vorlon question.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's the very first question they ask. And, we've had this argument back and forth about the prophecies and little pieces. And there was that voice in Sheridan's head of Kosh saying jump to Sheridan. So I've always kind of drawn the connections with, Kosh is that voice in Sheridan's head saying jump. And then we get this scene where the very first question is the Vorlon, who are you? Question deep in wherever the hell this 2-mile long pit ended up.
Newbies, who do you think Lorien is? Just because you only see him for about 30 seconds. Any thoughts?
Kosh.
You think he is Kosh?
Wait, the guy at the end?
Yes, I've got a whole theory on that I can go into later. Okay. But I think it's Kosh.
Emily, Nicole, any thoughts on who Lorien is?
No, but something about the way he said some things, I don't trust him.
Well, one of my questions.
You don't trust anyone, Emily. Sorry,
no,
Nicole.
I really don't.
It's
an issue we've talked about repeatedly. It's never going to change.
Nicole, go ahead. Sorry.
It's all right. Well, one of my questions was going to be, who the fuck is that guy that's down in this random pit with him? And also he kind of had like a vagina face. I don't really know. Like his face was weird looking.
So he had butthole.
Kind of like the antithesis of the butthole people.
Yeah. Well, he actually had, if you look at his head, he's got a little bit of a jewel up there.
I thought, is he a soul hunter? Is he there to take his soul? Like, what is happening? Like, who the fuck is this random guy in this pit with him? Like, can I share your fire? He's like, all right. Cool.
He gives him
Who the fuck are you?
He gives him the sexy eyes at the end. It's like,
Yeah, the look at the end on his face was so weird. I'm like, what is happening here? So I want to know who this dude is. Like, I have no idea who the fuck he is.
Did you all recognize the voice at all?
It seemed familiar, but I can't place it.
He's Wayne Alexander is the actor. He's played several roles. Probably the one you're going to remember the most is he played Jack, the Inquisitor.
Oh.
Now he's in more makeup.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wayne Alexander is one of their go-to, like, we need an alien. Let's stick him in makeup.
Was he a Drazi at some point?
Probably. He's been everything at some point.
Yeah.
The look of the character has always reminded me of Elrond from the Lord of the Rings series for some reason.
Justin, let's go ahead and start talking about the scene then. Justin, go for it.
Well, and I guess, yeah, I'll just kind of just start dropping this now. And my theory, and it could change over time. I mean, and I understand Kevin's point. He does kind of have some kind of, wise figure kind of feel to him. And maybe he is some kind of guiding person that'll help Sheridan navigate the chaos and get off planet. But to me, it just, the whole thing feels like you keep hearing Kosh's voice inside of him. We've been talking about how some of us may think that, since we even saw in this episode another example of how Vorlons can possess and be carried by within human bodies, so there's a lot of us who think that a part of Kosh, or maybe Kosh's entire soul, is somewhere trapped inside Sheridan. And just for this random guy to come out of nowhere and be like, oh, hey, what's going on? Can I sit here and talk? And he gives him that little kind of weird kind of look and smirk. And you see something on Sheridan's face, almost like he kind of recognizes him. So that's why I kind of think, going back to where, Franklin had to have this conversation with himself, and he was, going through this whole thing where he's talking to an asshole version of himself, basically telling him to get off your ass and stuff like that. To me, this almost wonders if it's not a hallucination as much as maybe this character is a vision of Sheridan's that's Kosh, that's going to try and help him get off planet and get back to Babylon 5. So that's kind of my whole current thoughts on who this guy is, because honestly, I was pissed off when they cut the episode the way that they did, with really no information about who this person is, and just kind of gives him this look. And then, like I said, you see this kind of look of recognition in Sheridan's eyes, and then it just cuts to black, and then infuriated me. Like, I can't wait to go watch the next episode. But the whole thing kind of gives me Kosh vibes. So that's why I think it's Kosh.
Welcome to the serialization that is season 4. Enjoy. Remember when we were back in season 1 where I was like, guys, it's going to be serialized TV. I promise.
Oh, yeah.
I promise. Yeah. Nicole.
This whole thing with Sheridan in the pit with that guy or whatever, it seems to me that Sheridan has no recollection of what happened, or like, why am I here? Where am I? And he's like, well, you were born. And he's like, yeah, no shit, Sherlock, but like, why am I here? You know what I mean? So it seemed to me like Sheridan is cognizant of his surroundings and like aware of what's happening, but he has no idea how he got there. So I'm wondering if and also, where the hell did he get that cloak from if he fell 2,000 feet into this pit? Like, 1, where did he get this cloak? And 2, he doesn't remember anything. So like,
only our newbies. Excuse me, where did Sheridan find a cloak?
Well, that's actually in my reaction video. I'm like, where the hell did he get a blanket?
Yeah. Well,
excuse me.
It's not like that. It's like, what I'm getting at is that I feel like maybe that this person was there to like take care of him or guide him. Like, if he doesn't remember how he got there, he doesn't remember what he's doing or like down there or what happened, and then he randomly has this cloak, like maybe this person is supposed to be there to guide him and help him. I don't know if it's Kosh, because I know that they're supposed to see the Vorlon in the way that they want to see them or whatever, but maybe this is some sort of, I don't want to say guardian angel, but like, it's like clearly someone or somehow he's been taken care of or helped, because that just wouldn't appear. And also, what the hell was that metal rod he dropped? And what significance was that? Like, did that guy give it to him?
Oh, Nicole, they literally zoomed in on Ivanova's metal rod. That's
what I was going to ask. There was the rod that Ivonova had on, and then he was, okay, so that, and I wrote that down. I said, is it his like markings, or is he just dropped it on the ground?
Do you remember the last time Sheridan had to take off his command insignia?
When he stopped.
No, not his Earth Force. That was his Earth Force pen. This is his Commander Gold Strident.
Oh, okay.
He took it off once before. I misspoke. I didn't say he had to. He chose to take it off. Do you remember why?
It in the
there you go.
For the perfect beauty or whatever.
So
weird
he can hear the chanting.
Chant.
Yes.
And it was the lesson from Kosh on that was beauty in darkness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because
you got the symbolism with the command bar falling off in this one. And he's in a pretty fucking dark spot at this point, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, because I noticed that like they zoomed in on Ivanova's, and then that was on the ground, but it just seemed much bigger. If you looked at it, it seemed, I guess maybe it was zoomed in, but like it looked bigger than what Ivonova was wearing.
Nicole's right. That was actually the anal probe.
I mean, maybe it was. I don't know. But
I mean, they didn't know where it fell out of, so.
True. But clearly something is there to take care of him somehow, because one, how would he survive that? Two, like, who was this? Like, there's just too much going on there for it to just him coincidentally falling 2,000 feet or whatever it was, and just being like, here I am, you know.
We did have a conversation about those rank insignias, not rank, but level insignias a while back. And actually JMS was asked about it again here. And so he actually laid it out. So command is solid gold. Ivanova has gold and silver because it's command and administrative support staff.
Right.
And then you have red is medical and green is security.
Gotcha. I thought that's what it was, but it just looked so big when it fell on the ground. Like it looked bigger than what Ivonova was wearing. So thank you for clarifying and making me feel stupid.
You know, I mean,
I'm just kidding.
That's what we're here for.
You may have taken a sip of water when they beat you over the head by zooming directly into Claudia Christian's chest and showing you the insignia.
I literally wrote it down, but the thing that he dropped looked way bigger. It looked like it was like this big. It looked like, I don't know.
See, the reason why I'm getting you on this, Nicole, is not actually for you. I actually think that's the one piece of bad directing in this episode, because they tried so hard to explain to you that gold thing was a piece of his uniform. It's like, why would you ever zoom in on her command stripe, aside from the fact that, hey, audience, we think you're stupid. Yeah. So we're going to show you this, and then we're going to show you it again 2 seconds later.
Well, and they shouldn't have made it so big on when it fell on the ground. They shouldn't have zoomed in so much, because to me, it just looked like a metal pipe. Anyway,
let's read into a little bit more of psychology of Nicole, that she thinks it looked big.
Oh God, I'm done talking.
Justin, would you care to continue the conversation?
Oh God, it was so hard for me to keep my mouth shut during that whole part of, oh my God, it was just so big when it hit the ground, guys. It was just huge. And then Blake talking about what body parts that it fell off of, and all I can think about is Sheridan did prison wallet his communicator at one point.
He did. We did.
So who knows? You know, it just.
And in this episode, Ivanova loses it under a pillow, which I can't tell you how many times I've lost a damn cell phone in my couch.
Right. Exactly.
So I feel her.
I don't think that was probably part of it. I think she literally just couldn't find it when they were like filming it, and they just kept it. But honestly, it just makes me see this whole scene in a different light now. But because honestly, it was a thing about the director, I think, of thinking that we're all stupid, because as soon as I see a guy stumbling around on Zaha Doom, I have to assume it's Sheridan. Like, who the hell else were they going to put in there in that scene? But honestly, I don't necessarily think that buy into that he has like amnesia or something like that. I think he perfectly well knows what happened. I think he's just trying to figure out how in the hell he survived. And maybe he doesn't remember that little bit. I think he still probably remembers everything else that happened on Zaha Doom. So I don't think it's a total amnesia thing.
Kevin, I think you want to steer us towards the other part of the Zaha Doom scenes with the White Star.
So Kevin, how about executing the getting us the hell out of here maneuver to get us out of the gutter we're currently in with rods, bars, and prison walls?
Yeah, let's talk about the White Star, please.
There's a bonus episode title: Rods, Bars, and Prison Wallets.
Yeah, I just, first of all, Lanier's method of getting them out of that was pretty insightful, and it wasn't supposed to be that they were going to be hypnotized by something, but it sure turned out well. And it just goes to show you how valuable he is. But I really felt for Patricia Tallman in that scene, because she, in some detail, described those awful contact lenses that she had to wear that made her immediately start weeping, because, I mean, they had to completely fit over her eyeball to have it completely cover. And she said they were too big for her. And she could like feel it on her bone. They were so big. They were so big. So she could not wear them for more than, a few minutes at a time because they were so awful. Reminiscent of the Jaws character from the Bond series. He could only wear the teeth for so long before he was like, okay, I can't wear these any longer.
He was just trying to get out of Moonraker, really, is what he was trying to do.
Well, everyone should have wanted to get out of Moonraker.
Nicole, what do you got?
Lanier was really good in that whole sequence. But I think it was my favorite when he said, executing, getting the hell out of here. Because I think that's the first time Lanier's ever remotely cussed or whatever, if I'm not mistaken. But just hearing him say that and like, it just made me laugh so hard. So that was all I was going to add. I really liked him in this episode.
This was another callback too. Did you all recognize the good old eye?
The eye that cannot see?
Oh, well, that's a whole nother thing. But I was talking about the other reference to the eye.
The glowy eyes that look like the front of a late model Hyundai these days.
Remember when Ivonova during Voices Authority was flying through space on the Epsilon 3 machine and Drawl told her to get the hell out of there? When the eye started looking at her, it's the very same eye.
Yeah.
Eyes.
Okay. Yeah, eyes. Yeah.
Was that the glowy things, the glowy blobs?
Because remember when there she was saying it's looking for her, it's found her, and Draw's telling her to get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same ones.
So wait, are those shadows then? Because they're not dark and they're not the creepy spiders.
Well, we've seen shadows have glowy eyes.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. So if you look at it, it's definitely a shadow face.
I guess I just
spider eyes. Yeah.
Okay. I just saw the glowing and I was like, what the hell is that?
Mm-hmm.
I need glasses.
And now we know it can, if you're a Mass Effect fan, it can indoctrinate you.
Yeah, that was wild. The whole knowing everything about them and speaking to them in their father's voices. Like, what the hell?
Here's another thing for you, because we're all about callbacks this episode. What other alien race uses fathers to talk to?
Vorlons.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
GMS talked about that quite a bit. He said that there was a bit of a debate about how much they were going to show or not show during that. And they decided not to show anything and just have the actors do the work on that one. And I thought that part of the episode, I thought ended up really well. The acting of Tallman and Christian Berlin, I thought was really good in that scene. The three of them did a nice job with that, making you feel what they were going throughout that scene without showing anything that may have completely ruined it.
It's taken us nearly over a year, but I have finally helped Kevin with an actor name. Finally.
Oh, you've done that a couple times before when my memory is just completely failing.
It's usually you doing the other way.
That's true.
Justin, what do you got?
Well, not a whole lot to add that really hasn't already been said, but I think it's extremely interesting that they have some kind of super telepathic being among the shadows, because I don't think we've ever seen any evidence that all of them can do it. So maybe it's just this one creature who has the ability to, not only communicate telepathically, but also to kind of take over and control people, kind of hint, hint, nudge, nudge, our whole meat puppet discussion, to the point to where Ivonova said she was actually perfectly willing to take the ship down onto the planet in order, in order based upon what this being was trying to compel them all to do. And it was, I would love to hear about any kind of like linear foresight that he may have had to be like, well, I don't necessarily trust it. So if I don't have this little button I hit every 2 minutes, it's just the ship's going to turn around and make a beeline for the closest fucking exit. Like, that was brilliant, if not convenient writing, but I still thought it was a really well acted scene. And then I've got some questions about Lita anyway that I'll probably hold off for the questions and predictions section.
We'll be there in a second.
I've got some questions about her.
Not to give Lanier too much credit, but he said clearly he was worried about being incapacitated.
Yes.
So it didn't have to do with foresight of thinking that they were going to be brainwashed or mesmerized.
It was just yeah, you're right. It was just if he was incapacitated in any way. So okay, yeah.
Some explosions on the bridge, and much like all Star Trek ships, I'm sure there's rocks in those that when they explode, they go flying everywhere. It's just part of the technology.
Yeah,
okay.
They have no capacity to stop an overload for whatever goddamn reason in the whatever century.
It's 2261 now, sir.
Right.
Okay, let's go ahead and move into questions and predictions and wrap this episode up. So we'll go to Nicole first. And again, for those who are new to our show, our newbies have not watched anything past the Hour of the Wolf. So Nicole is going to ask any questions she has lingering and then make any predictions that she may have. So Nicole, what do you got?
So I already asked this, but who the hell is that guy Sheridan was talking to at the end? And what's his significance? What is going on with Morden? Like, is he getting healed? Is he morphing into something else? Because the way he was making it sound was flesh is just flesh or whatever. But like, are they gonna like give him a new skin? Are they gonna?
Well, he actually said it in the episode. He said they're repairing him.
Okay, so
his masters are repairing him.
That's so weird. Okay, so then my other question would be obviously do Lear, Londo and Veer, apparently I'm combining them, succeed in killing Psycho Emperor. And then prediction, I think it was a bad move for Centauri Prime to let those spider ships come and go underground there and hide, basically. It was a bad idea.
Justin, questions, predictions.
Question number one, I referenced it just a few seconds ago. What the hell did the Vorlons do to Lita? We know that they gave her gills, but that black eye shit, like, what was that? Why then? Is it just because of her trying to reach out into like shadow consciousness, or is that something that happens to her whenever she's trying to do something telekinetic or like telepathic like that? Like, it just kind of, I've never seen that happen before, so it was kind of like we've
seen the black eyes before
with just her though, or with someone else.
I think with Lita. I can't remember.
With someone else too.
Who was it?
Was it someone else?
When Jakar was.
Yes, Jakar and Dust to Dust. Thank you.
Dust to Dust. When he took that and was doing the telepathic assault on Londo, he had the black eyes too.
Oh.
So we have seen other telepathic attacks.
I completely forgot about that. So yeah, that just kind of like really freaked me out. I thought maybe it had something to do with what the Vorlons did to her.
Could be, but we've seen it before.
Yeah. Who's the shadow telepath? Is he the person that's controlling everything? And then my last question: can anyone be touched by an angel, or does it have to be like a particular type of person who can carry Vorlon spirits? I want to know if there's anything like. Can they just inhabit anybody, or does it have to be like specific conditions that allow that person to be able to carry a Vorlon like that? And then predictions, I still stand by. I think the guy who's visiting with Sheridan is Kosh, maybe even like an earlier version of him, because the Vorlons are millions of years old? Maybe like what they looked like before they became angelic, creatures. If you think of like evolution, stuff like that. Maybe that's what Vorlons used to look like back in the day, but I still think it's Kosh. I also think this is how Lando starts down the path of becoming Londo.
I'm about to say Lando Calrissian joins in season 4.
Because they wrote in the Millennium Falcon somehow. But I think this is how Londo starts down the path of becoming Emperor. New Kosh is up to something, and I don't think it's good because of just the way he's kind of acting even towards Lita and basically saying, stay the fuck away and don't interfere with anything that I'm doing.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about that, but he said that Sheridan nuking Zahadum has opened a door.
Has opened an unexpected door, and now Sheridan has fulfilled his purpose, and that's why he has no interest in going to rescue him. And so now that he's doing something, he's got something up his sleeve that even Lita says that he's not communicating with her. And I'm not 100% sure she trusts him. I mean, she has to work for him, but you can just tell by the way she acts around him, she doesn't either like or trust some of the things that he's doing. But I do think that Kosh will be the one that does save him and helps him kind of find his way off the planet and back to Babylon 5. That is all.
Thank you. And Emily, questions, predictions.
All right. First question. Who the hell was the cave guy? I also have questions about how they survive, like food, water, basic necessities, air you can breathe.
Well, it's only been a week. So if you can survive a nuke, you can go about 2 weeks without food.
Yeah. So just, some basic questions about that.
And where did he get the cloak?
Seriously,
that is the weirdest thing about this entire episode. Where did Sheridan get the cloak?
We do not sound like that.
It was the blanket the Red Cross gives you when they show up after the fucking disaster. Jesus Christ.
The little eye vessel thingy. What? I don't know if it's a who or if it's a what. I guess that's my first question. Is it a who or is it a what? Or is it a combination? What the fuck is Kosh 2.0 plotting? Because I don't trust him. Lita doesn't trust him. I don't trust him. I don't like him. So I feel like he's plotting something that may not turn out well. And I really want to know what that unexpected door that Sheridan opened is. Because up until now, a lot of this has been working off of prophecy, at least as far as like Dylan and Kosh's understanding of things that would happen in the progression of events. So I'm wondering if this unexpected door was actually unexpected, or if it was one of those, if something didn't happen in timeline A, we get timeline B kind of things. But I want to know what that door was.
Any predictions?
Not just yet, but I am hoping they find Garibaldi and he hasn't been turned into a shadow meat puppet.
Okie dokie, that will wrap it up for our conversation with the newbies for the Hour of the Wolf. We'll be back next week with them to talk about the next episode, which is whatever happened to Mr. Garibaldi? Question mark.
Dun, dun, dun.
And then we'll be back here after the credits for Blake, Kevin, and I to answer all of these questions and predictions in our Beyond the Rim segment. Please be sure to like, subscribe, follow, and join us on the conversation on Facebook and Twitter. And if you can join us over on Patreon, you can also join the conversation on our Discord. And please, 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 go into Apple, go into Spotify, go into Audible, wherever you get your podcast, and leave us a review. It really does help us grow. Until next week, I've been Scott, and with me has been
Emily,
Blake,
Justin,
Nicole,
and Kevin.
And we'll see you next week, where we may have a fight between the Garibaldi got captured versus Garibaldi went out on his own crowd. We shall see.
Dun, dun, dun.
Bye.
Bye.
Where did he get the cloak, guys?
You know what? Fuck off.
I love it. It's like the guy who sits there during Star Trek conventions. In season 4, episode 3, you were wearing these particular kind of loafers, but they wouldn't have still been around in the 23rd century.
Look, I can suspend my disbelief for certain things when I'm watching shows because I know you have to, but that's not one of them.
I just want to know who gave it to him.
Just showing up in a cave is not one I can like.
Emily draws the line at blankets. That is the line in the sand that cannot be crossed.
Just randomly appearing blankets.
It was tattered. He probably just found it. Like, it was obviously tattered.
Because I didn't see him pulling a curtain off the window when he jumped off the balcony, so
you don't know. He might have like found it floating and used it as a parachute to guide his way down.
Suffocate you with a fucking
tunnel.
blanket.
Thank you for listening to Grey 17, a Babylon 5 podcast. You can find all the places to listen to and watch this podcast at anchor.fm/Grey17podcast or youtube.com @Grey17podcast. We want to hear from you, so join the conversation at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, or Patreon. Be sure to subscribe and leave a review where you are listening to or watching this podcast. Grey 17 is not affiliated with, and the podcast has not been prepared, approved, or licensed by Warner Brothers or any other owners of the Babylon 5 copyright. All clips included in this podcast are the intellectual property of the respective copyright holders. They are included here for purpose of review, and no infringement is intended. The opening and closing themes are available from Falling Matter on YouTube.
And what's out there?
The rim,
And beyond that?
the truth.
Welcome back to Beyond the Rim. Again, this is a spoiler section, so if you have not watched past the Hour of the Wolf, or you just can't remember what happens next, this would not be the time for you to join us in this conversation. So see yourself out, and we will talk to you next week. For all those who want to stick around, let's go ahead and dive in. And the one thing I want to bring up, guys, before we get into questions and predictions, and I know it's going to get asked, and I want people to be careful when you ask it, especially on Facebook, because that's where most of our newbies are, is we've decided to not talk about the behind the scenes when it comes to season 4, specifically that they were expecting to be canceled. after season 4. PTN, Warner Brothers had come to them and said, well, PTN, the network, isn't going to be around much longer, so wrap it up. And we don't want to do that because we don't want the newbies to start thinking about, what's changed here, what's done that there. But we will talk about it probably when we start up season 5, what happened with season 4, especially since we'll be starting talking about TNT more than anything else. So please be careful when we're talking about season 4 and season 5 in the interwebs, because we want to keep our newbies not thinking that anything is weird going on or that they're rushing towards an end or anything like that, which they absolutely are rushing towards an end, which is why the Shadow War will be done in the next 5 episodes.
Still a lot better than the last season of Game of Thrones.
Oh, for fuck's sake. The last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones is freaking...
I really want to see what the newbies think about this season at the end of it without that knowledge. And so when you said that to us privately, Scott, I was like, absolutely, let's definitely do that.
Yeah.
So we're asking for, some cooperation from the listening audience. Please don't spoil our newbies about that, because we really want to have their unfiltered viewpoint on that.
To that point too, when we get to Deconstruction of Falling Stars, which by the way is one of my favorite episodes, we're not going to tell them that that's a second finale that they filmed for the season. I want them to hopefully be surprised when Claudia shows back up at the end of season 5, which she doesn't. She filmed that in season 4, but she'll show back up with Sleeping in Light at the end of season 5. And I'm going to try to make them surprised when we get there in about a year. Okay, guys, let's dive into questions and predictions. And our questions circle around a lot about Lorien and what's going on with Sheridan. So we'll start there. Who is Lorien and what is his significance?
Well, Lorien is a first one.
He's more than a first one. He is the first one.
The first one. Yes, you're correct. And he's played by the awesome Wayne Alexander, who does a fantastic job with this part. It would be tough for me to decide, which of his characters between Jack and Lorien I enjoy more, although this one obviously lasts longer and is more impactful to the series. But I was, and others were less, interested in that episode, but I really liked to see him in that other role, because it really shows that his acting has a great range to it that he does a nice job with. But here he is the I don't want to say all knowing, but he is the mentor. He's the guy that is helping Sheridan work through what's happened and where he's going, and he's also the one that breathes some new life into him.
And continuing down that path, he's also the one that helps in his own way the Shadows and Vorlons finish their shit. I alluded to the fact that the Shadows and the Vorlons both use patriarchal figures to communicate. We have Kosh using Sheridan's dad. We have the Eye using Ivanova's dad. The Shadows and Vorlons see Lorien as the father figure. Like in a few episodes when they're on the bridge of the White Star, the Shadow, in Ed Wasser's voice, is going to ask, "Are you going to come with us? Are you going to leave us alone behind? What's going on?" They're children, and Lorien is the dad. And Blake and I still fight over if he's the man in the middle or not. I don't think he is.
I still say he is.
I think the man in the middle got a nuke shoved up his ass. Or down his ass, however that works. Moving right along. Going over to Centauri Prime, do Londo and Veer succeed in killing the Emperor?
Yep, and I think they're going to be surprised at which one of them actually kills the Emperor.
Yep. Every prophecy we've been told so far, every single one, and we got another one today, has come out to be true. So if every prophecy is right, that means that Londo and Veer have to be Emperor, and as was pointed out, you can't have 2 Emperors at the same time, so that means Cartagia's got to go too.
In order to do that, they're going to need a third conspirator.
Yes, I love
we'll see next week.
Yes.
Mr. Dakar is going to, unfortunately, pay a terrible price for his complicity in the conspiracy, but it's not particularly by choice. It is and it isn't.
One of my favorite lines from Jakar, just because it's so Jakar, is when he's getting beat up and just tortured. And I think it's the Emperor asked, do you have anything to say? And he's like, yes. Do you happen to know where Mr. Garibaldi is?
Yeah.
Jakar is such a good friend. He's like, I am being tortured, but I have a mission. Can you help me out? Going over to the shadows, who is the shadow telepath or the eye? Is that the shadow leader? Who is it, or what is it? Or is it a who, or is it a what?
They really don't get into that all that much.
We're not going to see it again.
No, and so you're left up to interpretation. I'm not aware of anything in the extended universe that would tell us the answer to that, but I think it's best left not to.
I wonder if this is one of those areas that would have been fleshed out more if we had a season 4 and a season 5. Yeah. We did have a season 4 and season 5, but what I mean is if we originally had what JMS was planning for season 4 and season 5,
right?
Because if he could have drawn out the Shadow War through all of season 4, we would have been able to see a lot more of the shadows, and then he would have had the Earth fight be season 5. At least that's what I assume his plan was at this point. So we would have got a lot more of the shadow play. What did the Vorlons do to Lita?
They fucked her up good.
Gave the girl gills. I mean, we discussed this a little bit with Franklin when he examined her last season.
Mm-hmm.
They've made her like peak human. She has the ability to be kind of extremely athletic. She doesn't have any disease. She doesn't have any ailments. She's actually more healthier than what she was before. And they don't say it, but I'm pretty sure they also upped her ability past a P5.
Sure.
Much like the same Talia got a boost. I think Lita got the same kind of boost.
Yeah, I was just going to ask. My memory was telling me that she was a P5. I was like, wait, Talia was a P5, so maybe you're wrong. But yeah, they were both that.
Mm-hmm. They're both commercial teeps.
And both pretty clearly not P5s at the end of their story.
Mm-hmm. And maybe I'm forgetting because, forgive me, I forget a lot of season 5 for many reasons.
Yeah.
But they may bring it up in season 5 that she's a stronger telepath than what we were led to believe at the beginning.
Yeah,
but,
they go into that a lot for sure.
But yeah, when she starts out, she's a commercial telepath, and commercial telepaths are P5.
Go ahead, Blake.
No, I just said they did. They bring it up in season 5.
Okay. With Byron. Can anyone carry a Vorlon? Or do they have to be special? Because Lita trucks around Kosh and all Kosh, and Sheridan seems to be trucking around Kosh.
I think anyone can take a Vorlon.
Jesus.
I don't know how to phrase it there, Scott. There you go. He broke Scott.
I think anyone modified by the Vorlons could probably carry one as long as they are starting from telepathic.
But Sheridan's neither one. He's not modified and he's not the telepath.
True, but I don't know that he can. Well, okay, I suppose so. But he's not really carrying the Vorlons in the same way that Lita.
No, it's true. That's true. This is Kosh just like latching on for dear life. And Lorianne says that. And we'll get into the conversation. Did Kosh make Sheridan jump for one reason or another? But Lorianne says later on that Kosh is struggling to stay alive just like Sheridan is. What is old Kosh or Kosh 2.0 plotting? And was the door a change in the timeline? Well, that's a little bit of a reach there, Emily. But what do you got?
Wasn't it that they decide to lay waste to
anything touched by a Vorlon?
By a shadow. But
by a shadow, yeah. Anything touched by a shadow.
Right.
Well, it's a change in the dynamic. For millions of years, it's been the Vorlons stay on their side, the shadows stay on their side, and let the pawns play. But now the Vorlons feel like they have the upper hand, and also they're still pissed off that Kosh got murdered. So the Vorlons see this as an opportunity to become the only big dogs in town. They want to wipe out the shadows now, and anyone else who's been involved with shadows. So the open door is, for the first time in a millennia, or more than that actually, we have the upper hand, so we're going to use it.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting, that both Emily and Nicole at different times in this episode really hit the nail on the head with stuff. With Emily, it was, Garibaldi, I hope he doesn't come back as a meat puppet, and in some ways he will briefly.
For somebody else, but yes.
Right. And Nicole, said, I think that's going to be a really awful mistake that the Centauris made, letting the shadows on the planet. And she's absolutely right. That's going to have far-reaching implications for the Centauris.
We want to talk a little bit on the door that was opened. If I wanted to admit I was wrong and Lorien isn't the man in the middle.
But you won't.
But I won't. But let's just, say if I were to. The unexpected door could be the Vorlons didn't know that Sheridan was going to go find Daddy either.
Yeah, that's true.
And, Sheridan opens that door and, oh, shit, Dad's back.
He's been hanging out in the caves for a while, gathering blankets for when it comes down.
Yeah, I don't know where I fall in this debate. I'll let you know later. But what I will say about this, it is really interesting, the whole dynamic with this argument, which is why I don't really want to jump in. I just kind of want to laugh about the two of you joking about it. But it is one of those things in this series where you really don't get the full answer, and it's completely left up to interpretation, which is fun in some ways. I mean, I don't want everything handed to me, which is why there's a lot of debates about the show that you can have of stuff that JMS leaves kind of open.
Or gives multiple answers.
Exactly, depending on what year it is, he's going to tell you something different. But it's not just Blake and I. I mean, this is the question that's launched 1,000 Reddit threads, because I've been through several of them. Is the big question of who's the man in the middle? How much did Kosh know about Lorien before they jumped? All of that good stuff. So it's a debate that's been going on for 30 years and will continue to go on long from now. Let's move into predictions. And as was already alluded to, Nicole said it's a bad move that the Centauri Prime to let the shadows come and hang out on their little island.
Yeah, see the previous question and what the Vorlons are planning.
To Emily's talk about, is the door a change in the timeline? Did things change? At least for this Babylon 5 proper 5 seasons, the key thing here is JMS operates under, there is one timeline, and that timeline is set in stone and it does not change. And so what we saw in War Without End, where Sheridan flashes forward and sees Centauri Prime in flames, that happens. Londo gets his keeper. All of that is going to happen. So we're on that path. Delenn tried to change that path by telling him not to go Zahadum, and he didn't listen. So, yeah. Now, when we get to Road Home, which the newbies will see here a year from now, we start getting into multiple timelines and universes and all that stuff. But for this 5-season arc, there is one timeline, and it never changes. This is Londo starting down the path to Emperor.
Yep.
The only argument I would give to that is Londo's been on the path to Emperor since he met Mr. Morden. But so it's not the start of the path, it's the continuing of the path, but absolutely it is a fork in the road, and he has taken the fork towards Emperor for sure.
Mm-hmm. This is the beginning of the end towards that.
It's also the beginning of the end of Londo.
Yeah.
I mean, because this is going to set up, we're going to see a redemption arc of Londo here for season 4, but then we're going to realize when we get to the implant of the Keeper that even if you redeem yourself, you have to still pay for your former sins. And that scene between G'Kar and Londo, when Londo is going off to be kept, is a really powerful scene for that reason too. So Londo will get his redemption, but then he will also have his fall. Lorien is Kosh. I was not expecting this one.
Yeah.
It's a nice little curveball from Justin.
Well,
maybe an earlier version.
A couple lately where he's hit the nail on the head, but this one not so much. No.
The one thing I'll give him though is he said an earlier version of Kosh because they've been around for a while. So he's on the board. He doesn't hit a bullseye, but he's on the board because Lorien is an earlier being, an earlier race. He's not a new guy who's just hanging out in a penal colony or something. So he's right there. He's just that he's not a Vorlon.
He's also not a soul hunter, because if you go back and look at Lurker's Guide, some folks in Lurker's Guide were talking about, is he a soul hunter? No, he's not. He's a different thing. He is an immortal being because for some reason, the first race that's born in this universe is immortal, which we can talk the philosophical conversations about that later, but that's what he is. He is the last of his kind, because the rest of his kind went off beyond the rim long ago.
Yeah, and as soon as I said that the look of the Lorian character reminds me of Elrond, that's all I meant. The look of the character. That's it. And Justin just latched onto that and was like, oh, yeah, the all-knowing, all this. And I'm like, no, that's not. I mean, he is, but you don't know that yet. I just meant the look of the character. I said that so clearly.
Well, the nice thing about season 4 being so sped up is in 5 episodes, well, actually, next episode, we're going to basically know that.
Yeah.
Lorian kind of lays it all out because in episode 3 of this season, Sheridan's back at B5 with Lorian. So, I mean, it goes quick. I mean, the Shadow War ends in 5 episodes from now. It's that fast. And I'm interested to see how the newbies handle that. Because they have been, especially Justin, but also Nicole and partially Jessi too, have been really into this Shadow War. And I'll be interested to see how they feel about it being wrapped up so quickly. Kosh will save and bring back Sheridan. This goes back to the whole point is he thinks Lorian is Kosh. So no, Kosh will not be the one saving him, but Kosh will be saved, quote unquote, by Lorian as well too. Because if Sheridan survives, Kosh survives. Kind of.
Kosh gets to go kick new Kosh's ass.
Yep. Which, it's interesting when we actually find out what a Vorlon really looks like, because they look a lot like a shadow. New Kosh is up to something bad. Thank you for the enlightened prediction.
Was that Justin?
No, that was Nicole.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, no, I mean, we've already discussed it. The Vorlons are laying out a plan to where they are going to exert their dominance in the universe. They are going to send out Planet Killer, and they are going to start wiping out anything that's been touched by a shadow. And as we've seen, and as was alluded to in this episode, every race has been touched by the shadows because the shadows been meddling with everybody. I mean, even Morden says in this episode, they planted their ships like seeds across the galaxy. So the Vorlons have a lot of work to do. I mean, if you go to The Road Home, the new B5 animated movie, spoilers, if you haven't watched it yet, you probably have at this point. In an alternate timeline, the Planet Killer comes for Earth.
Right.
So the Vorlons are going to start being an aggressor as we move forward. Anything else you guys want to talk about with the Hour of the Wolf? It's getting to the Hour of the Wolf here as we record this thing.
I think the newbies have finally realized that other than Kosh, that, you know, the Vorlons are not benevolent, but that's going to become abundantly clear very soon. But I think they're already kind of on that path. It's happened a little sooner than I was expecting. They certainly laid the groundwork for that well, and then kind of mask it in this series. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yes, they're bad. Okay. They're all bad. Both of them, they're bad. They need out. And Sheridan kicks them out of the galaxy.
Get the hell out of our galaxy. Okay, guys, well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. We're going to be back next week with whatever happened with Mr. Garibaldi. If you have anything you want to add to our conversation, if you're on YouTube, put a little spoiler tag on there before you do anything. But if you want to come over to our Discord through our Patreon, you can go into our Beyond the Rim section and spoil everything you want to spoil, because it's just those who have watched the whole show in that little area. Till next week, I've been Scott, and with me has been
Blake
and Kevin.
And enjoy, all you insomniacs out there. Enjoy. I know I will. I need some vodka.
Initiating getting the hell out of here maneuver.